Hey everyone, this is Jay from the West Midlands Ghostbusters with a instructional installation video for you today. Today we're going to be working on the Neutrona Wand. Frutto Technology, you may or may not have heard of them. If you're familiar with the modding community or done any mods yourself, you will be. They provide quite a number of electronic parts for both proton packs, the wands, both for custom builds and for the Haslab range to replace the stock. Usually their components have more features or are just better built and have things that maybe the stock ones don't have. And today we're going to be focusing on one of their newer products. It's technically been around a short while. It's their new Keep Alive. So they do two Keep Alives for the Haslab range, one for the pack, which as the name suggests keeps the pack from switching itself off after I think it's a minute with the pack. They have that on their shop. All the links will be down in the description. That's a quite simple plug and play. They also do one for the Neutrona Wand, which is currently available as well. That does require soldering, so it can be a little daunting for people who aren't comfortable with soldering, particularly on the wand as well, where it's quite a snug, tight area to work in. However, they have got a new version which is currently not available for purchase, but will be soon, which is a bit easier to install. It doesn't require any soldering, it does require you cutting some wires. Frutto very kindly sent me one of those, and we're going to be installing that today. Make sure it all works, talk through how it's installed and show some of the features of it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is start taking this apart to get into the inside. The process is exactly the same for the Spangler wand, which is here, and the 84 wand, which they released recently. If we flip it over onto its back, we can see we've got the V-hook clip and this rail here. I am just going to take out the batteries, just with caution. So we'll get rid of the sled, take that out. And the first thing we're going to do is take off these two screws here. Once we've taken that clip off, you can just about see these four small black circles. Those are actually little plugs that are covering and hiding the four screws that we need to take out to remove this bottom section of the rail. Unlike the ones I think that are on the Haslab Ghost Trap, which I think are a bit spongier, these are actually pretty solid bits of plastic. So the only real decent way of getting these out is to drill them out. So we're going to do that now. I'm just going to do maybe the one, and then we'll just cut to when we've done all four to show the screws. Now, of course, by doing this, we are going to sort of permanently destroy these. However, I will show you when we put this back together what I did on the other wand, which is actually replacing these with some hex bolts, which looks the part much better as well. So we've got a small drill bit. I'm just going to do the one now just to sort of demonstrate, but I'm sure you get the idea. Now if we look closely there, I'll just zoom in back in. You can see the screw just lurking down there. So we're just going to repeat that on the other three. Okay, so that's all four of them taken out. They do come out fairly easy. I did have a little trouble with this one where only part of it came out. I got the rest out with the screwdriver. So as I say, we're just going to take out these four screws now. So that's all four now taken out. Just a little tip as well, when you are drilling those plugs out, just be gentle that you don't go too far down. You do run the risk of stripping these heads here, making it really difficult for you to get out. Once you've taken that off, there are another, let's see, I think 4 or 5. So they've got one here, one in here, one in there, one in there, and this one here. So that's 5 in total, so we need to take all those out. Okay, so once they're out, this whole bottom section will just lift off. Now, if we just take a look to the side here, you can see how it's coming away from the side part where the speaker is. And you might find it comes out with it, but try to sort of leave it there for the moment. So that's our top off. And just zoom out there so you can have a better look. Our screws are still in there, so just be careful you don't lose those. Put that to one side. You can see it's attached here. And we are finally inside the wand. Now, just for the purposes of giving myself a little more room to work with, because you can see it's quite compact, you've got a very tiny area. I've done a lot of work on my other wand, and I dreaded every moment, every time I had to open it and do some work inside of it. Hopefully I'm done with that, but here I am again with this one. So I'm actually going to take out this little mechanism here, just affords you a little more room, particularly because we're going to take out that board slightly. Once those 2 screws are out, you can pop off the spring, and you'll see that there's another screw just underneath, so we need to take that out as well. All 3 of the screws are the same, so we don't need to worry too much about getting those mixed up. And then once those are out, we can actually just take this out like so. As I say, that just gives us a little extra room to work in here. I'm also going to take this tape off, so I've got better access to the wires underneath. Nice bit of manky glue there. Just pull that apart there and get rid of that. So as I say, we've got this one here which feeds the LEDs down at the end of the wand. We're actually going to take that out, so we don't need that in our way at the moment. So all these are just JST connectors, so they will, if you're very careful, just pull out of here. There is a little catch, but they generally come out easy. If not, you can use some little tweezers or small pliers if you've got some, just to make that process a bit easier. Now, before we do any work on the board and take that out for access, we're going to take the other 2 connectors out as well, just so they're out the way of this one here as well. This one is for the momentum switch, I think, at the end, for changing the mode. So we're just going to take these ones out just like we did with the other. Okay, so now we've got those out, just move them out the way for a moment. I'll do my best to. Just hook it around there, I think. Stay. Okay, so we're actually going to take these 4 screws out to be able to get access to the board. I mean, we can technically kind of do it here, but I'm going to find it a lot easier if I've got a bit of flexibility that I can move that around and be able to get from different angles, etc. So as I say, there's 4 screws just here, here, and here, and here. We're going to take those out, and then we can get looking at the install. Okay, so that's 4 screws out, and now we're able to lift this board up just to allow us a little more room and flexibility to work with. I'm just going to pop the wand out of the way for a moment, and just to show you the Keep Alive kit. So this is what it comes with. We've got the board. Let's just move it in there a wee bit, shall we? So it comes with the board, and we've got these two cables here. So those are our components. So we're going to pop these to one side for the moment. And this is the board we're going to be fitting. That's going to give us the keep live functionality. As you can probably tell from looking at it, it's got these terminals here. So the wires from that board, there's going to be certain ones that we're going to cut, and we're going to put these into here, which is how they've got around the soldering, like on their previous board. So step one for this is going to be fitting 5 wires from this board into that circuit board we've just looked at. So we zoom nice and close in on here. Now I've kept the board at the same orientation that we've taken it out from the screws. So along this top edge here, the wires that we want to be snipping. So on this far right here, you'll see there's a block of 3 wires, a yellow, a red and a brown. So we're going to need those 3 there. And we're going to cut to give ourselves plenty of working room on the board, as high up as possible, maybe around about here. And then if we look carefully along here to the next, past the next one, to these 2 here, you'll see there's 2 brown wires on SW1, and we want this second one here, one on my left and your left as you're watching. We'll also need, which we'll get to in a moment when we've done those, there's a black ground wire, so we'll need that as well. So that's our first step. So you just get yourself some snippers, and we're going to make some cuts on those 3 wires. Do triple check that you're cutting the right wires. You're going to give yourself quite a headache and risk also ruining and destroying the board. So do double check. The kit does come with instructions. Obviously the purpose of this video is to sort of visualize and help you along with those instructions. So as I say, these are the first 3 wires that we're going to cut. I'm going to snip those now. We'll also that's our yellow, our red, our first brown. Just going to move those out of the way. Give ourselves a bit of room here. Get ourselves access to this brown wire here. As I say, it's the one to the left on the SW1 section. And we're going to snip that. Like so. The 5th and final wire we're going to need is the ground wire. Now it is marked on the board. I can get it in to show you. This black wire just here. You can see there it's soldered onto the section called GND for ground. Do make sure you're getting that one. The other black wire that's on this board here is your power. It's the negative for the power from the batteries. So do not snip that one, or the wand will stop working altogether. So I've managed to pull this out a little bit from down here. There's a bit of room, as I said, with the other ones, like a bit of play. So we're going to take a cut again, just like before, sort of about halfway, and I've lost my clippers. Take a snip there. Now what we're going to need to do next on all 4 of these wires, 5 of these wires, let's move him out of the way for a minute, we do need to strip them. You only need a small bit stripped off the end, just so you can see what that looks like. I did that off camera, just in case it went hideously wrong. Just a small amount like that, that's all you need. Just snipped it off the end there. So I'm just going to do that on the other 4 wires. And I quite often like to tin my wires at the end. You don't have to. You can screw these directly into the terminal block as they are. I am going to tin them slightly but that is personal preference. It just stops these wires from fraying. So I'm going to just do one of those on camera, and then I'll finish the rest and we'll get to the next stage. But this is just so you get the general idea, in case you've not done it before. It's as easy as that. And that one done, and I'm going to do the other 4, so they're all ready. Now, where we cut them on the other side, so there's our brown from the SW1, there's our ground, and there are our yellow, red and brown from the other terminal. Now, we're going to have to also strip the ends of these, just like we did with these, because they are going to go in to another section of the new board. So that is our wires cut and ready to go. So I'm going to move this out of the way for one moment, just have a quick look at this board. So this is our board. Let's get that into focus there. So we've got these 2 terminal blocks here, and those wires that we've prepared are going to be going into this section and this section respectively. And if we look underneath the board, you can see that they have been labelled in corresponding to the wires that we've cut on both sides. So if you're unsure about where each of these wires that we've cut go, there is a reminder there if you're a bit unsure. So let's bring the wand back in. You can turn the wand around the other way, just to make it a little easier for myself. Let's make sure that's in focus. Okay, so if we take a look at this board here that we looked at earlier, the bit we're going to do now is this terminal block. So it's, get that in focus, the terminal block here. So this is the one directly adjacent to these sockets here, so that's the way to remember it. These are the ones we're going to fit first. Just going to zoom out a little bit so we've got a bit more room. It's a bit tight there. So I've got all those gates open now on this section here, and we're going to put our wires in one at a time. So starting left to right, we're going to be the yellow, then the red, and then the brown off that first 3 section. Then it's going to be the other brown for number 4, and on the very end finally will be the ground wire. So let's get those fitted. Okay, so that's all 4 in that side. Just make sure they're all securely in there. So we've got the, just to remind you, the yellow, red, the blue, followed by the second brown and the ground, in that order. So we're just going to repeat that process now, as you probably guessed, by popping the wires on the opposite side into the other side of the terminals. And they do correspond to the positioning on the opposite side. So that yellow there, if we look underneath, does correspond to the yellow on the opposite side. So they are in line with each other, as you can see already, and you'll see when you do it yourself. Very snug, not a lot of room to work in. So for the last bits of the connectors, these 2 that we took out earlier to give ourselves a bit of room are now going to be plugged into this board. It should be fairly straightforward where they go. So the ones on the outside, there's a 4-pin and a 2-pin. So here's our 2-pin from earlier. So that's going to go into here. They can only go in one way. He says putting it in the wrong way. No, I was right. Right first time. So there's that one there, and then there's the one which I think has fallen down under here. There it is. So we're going to plug that one in now into the 4-pin connector here. A bit fiddly. There we go. Referring back to the 2 cables that came with the kit, you can probably guess what we're going to do with those. So the 2-pin's going to go into the spare 2-pin slot here. 4-pin can go into the 4-pin one. And all we're going to do is at the opposite ends of these, we're going to replace the original connections on the main board. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I do also have Frutto's 28 segment bar graph, which I'm going to be fitting also in a separate video possibly. So that's our wires all installed. We've got the ones we've added to our terminal blocks. We've got our 4-pin and 2-pin JSTs taken off the main board, feeding into here, 1 and 2 there, and then out back in like so there. So I popped a couple of screws just into the main board just to keep it secure. Just there, just put 2 in there. I'm not going to completely close this up and tidy this up just yet in this video, but if you were just doing this, I mean, it's a case of really keeping these cables nice and tidy. They will push down to here, you can cable tie them to here, and then this board, you can just sit it just around about here. There will be plenty of room once you put the case back on over the top. Now I have plugged back in the LED for the barrel, which goes into the empty socket, the only one left back under there. So I've popped the battery sled back in, put the cap back on. I am just going to carefully turn this over. Be careful not to trap any wires, just so you can see the top here. And first thing we're going to do, check we have power. That's a good start. Second button, that's another good start, and full mode on. There we go. Okay, so that's all good start. Everything is working as expected. Let's give it a quick fire. Yep, that's all fine. Going to leave it and just see if it turns itself off. Now the timeout on the wand, I believe, is 30 seconds, at which point it will switch itself off. So we're just going to leave it. I think it's been on a good 10-15 seconds already. So we'll just see what happens. Okay, so far so good. Chugging away. If you have this connected to the Haslab pack, but you have the stock electronics in there, when the pack turns itself off, which it does after I think 60 seconds, it no longer powers the wand. So this will not keep alive, it will turn itself off. So it won't function as expected, so it's worth noting that. Now Frutto do a keep alive kit for the Haslab Proton pack. It's a plug and play, it's really easy to install, it's very cheap. Again, links will be in the description of where to get that from. If you have one of those fitted into your pack, which will stop the pack turning off, you can have the keep alive in your wand, and the wand will stay on indefinitely as well. So there are 3 modes with this keep alive. There is your default stealth mode, as they call it, which is just it running as we saw earlier. And there is a demo mode, which essentially runs through all the different modes up here on a continuous loop. And then there's what they call single shot mode, which it will keep alive, stay on, and then every, I think it's 20 seconds, it will fire once just before the timeout, and then continue, and you keep doing that over and over. Show you how to do those. First one we'll show outside of the standard is demo mode. Now to activate that, you need to hold down the mode switch here and flick on the first switch, then let go, turn on the next one, and from here it will go through the demo. Once it's finished going through, then it will wait 20 seconds idling, and then it will repeat the process from the beginning. To activate the single shot mode, this time round we hold down the intensify button, switch on our first switch, let go, second one, then activate. As I mentioned, this will sit and idle for about 20 seconds or so, and then shoot once, and then go back to idling, and it will just do that on a continuous loop indefinitely. There we go. And that's all 3 modes. So that's all working wonderfully. Again, a big thanks to Frutto Technology for allowing me to do the installation and test the kit for them. And I hope you found the installation video useful. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe if you wish. And more videos coming soon. Like I say, the next one I'll be doing is installing the bar graph and how that works with the Keep Alive as well in particular. Thanks for watching. Take care.